Good afternoon. I'm Nick Kaltmeyer with linkinglewiscounty.com. I'm here this afternoon with County Manager Ryan Piche. Ryan and I are here to discuss a little bit about the budget process today. We do have a tentative budget that's out for public review, and there is going to be a public budget hearing on Thursday, November 16th at 5 p.m. here at the County Legislature Chambers on the second floor of the courthouse here in Lowville. So we just wanted to sit down with Brian and go over some of the budgeting process, what the budget includes. As far as appropriations this year, we're looking at a $45,468,424 appropriated in the budget. Compared to 2017, 2017's budget was $44,946,294. So we're actually increasing spending by about $500,000, $522,130. Yep. The tax levy, which is the amount that is collected by taxpayers here in Lewis County, they're looking at $15,799,930. So last year that amount was $15,338,189. So the tax levy will increase by about $461,750. What does that mean to the average taxpayer? Per $1,000 of assessed value, your rate would go from $7.23 last year to $7.34 this year. So that's an increase of about 11 cents per $1,000 of assessed value, 1.54%, which keeps us in under the state mandated tax cap, which I know you guys worked really hard on.
We absolutely did.
So that was just a whole lot of numbers that got thrown out there. So if you wanted to just address that really quickly,
Sure.
As far as how we got to those numbers and what the increases were.
Yeah, so like Nick said, about a $500,000 increase in overall spending, which in proportion to a $45 million annual budget is really modest. It's a modest increase, and those increases are driven largely by personnel expenses. We had some small contractual increases, but really if you go through the budget and you look line by line, you're not going to find a lot of increases. Departments aren't getting additional funds to do more things or to fund more positions. It's really just kind of keeping pace with what we've been doing. And as time goes on, things cost a little bit more. So a modest increase in spending, and that gets reflected in the tax rate, a modest increase in the tax rate up to 7.34 millage rate, which turns out to be about $734 tax bill for a $100,000 property. So like I said, fairly modest, but it is an increase over the past few years. We've been lucky to decrease taxes. I think they've gone down 3 times in the last 3 years, which is really good. That's a really good trend for Lewis County. And if you look at the last 10-year trend, we're still down from 2008 levels. 2008, the rate was 7.84 per thousand. So we're still down from there. Overall, in the big picture, I think our taxpayers have done fairly well with the strategy that we've had here.
Okay. We wanted to talk a little bit about positions. I guess there was a little bit of confusion in the budget message when we were talking about funded positions versus actual positions.
Correct.
292 was the average number of employees in the county for the 2017 budget period. The budget says that no new positions are being added, but we have funded 308 positions. Basically, from what I gather, those are not new positions. Those are positions that were not filled during 2017.
Correct.
And there's a possibility they may be filled in 2018 or they may not. We could still be averaging 292. But in the budget, as far as budget purposes go, there's a total of 308 positions funded in the budget.
That is absolutely correct. There's a big difference when we're talking hundreds of employees between what is actually funded in the budget and how many we have at any working for the county at any one given time. A good example is over in social services right now. We have 2 funded positions that we're opting to leave vacant because the case numbers at this time don't demand that they're filled. So you have that throughout the year at times where you have positions that we have put the funds available for, but they don't necessarily get filled throughout the year. Or you've got lag time between vacancies where if a position's vacant for 4 to 6 months, that's really only a half a position on the year. So like Nick said, we're funded at 308 positions, but on average, I bet if you looked at our 2018 average at the end of the year, it'll probably be pretty close to what the 2017 average is.
Okay. This next topic is getting into a little bit more personnel-wise. Throughout the year, I know this is your first year here, but I think you were involved in some of the conversations between. I guess it's safe to say that there is a drug epidemic in the area, not only here in Lewis County, but we're noticing it at a statewide level, a national level. It's kind of everywhere. I know throughout the year that the sheriff's office was advocating for an additional investigator position. They were funded with 1 investigator. In years past, before Sheriff Carpinelli, the department always did have 2 investigators. Toward the end of the fall, that position was approved for the final 3 months of the year, and then it was going to be worked into the next year's budget if possible. At the same time, the district attorney has been requesting another assistant district attorney position. She currently has 1 ADA. She says general rule in the state is about one assistant district attorney for every 10,000 of population. So I know the district attorney is feeling the crunch, and with everything that's going on, their office is feeling a little overwhelmed on some of these things. Can we just talk about a little bit, I know with the funding for the second investigator position, that is approved in next year's budget. There is room for a second investigator, but it's at the cost of not replacing a deputy.
Correct.
Would that be correct? Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. So we're, essentially what we've done is allow the sheriff to promote a sergeant to investigator and then promote a deputy to sergeant, but not backfill that deputy position. So basically he's given the flexibility to accomplish what he thinks he needs in terms of an investigation staff without compromising the overall financial picture for the department. So net neutral in terms of amount of positions, but a little bit of resource shifting for the sheriff's department.
So technically it would be creating an additional position at the sheriff's department, but then removing a position of deputy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
A second ADA has not been funded in the 2018 budget. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So I guess the question would be that we've heard a little bit so far with people that have looked at the budget preliminary. How can we justify adding another investigator, which is only, theoretically, you would think that it would only create a higher workload for the district attorney's office, which is already overwhelmed. So how can we justify creating this position without giving the district attorney resources to prosecute?
Yeah, that's a good question, Nick, and astute observation. I'm glad you brought it up. A couple things. First of all, to take a step back and look at the overall picture of the budget. What I said before with the sheriff is important because we were able to address a need that he felt in the department without a lot of impact financially on the budget because we didn't have a net increase in a position.
Right.
So if you look across the budget and across all departments, you'll see that, like I said, we haven't added any additional positions. Really, all we're doing is holding steady year over year. And in order to do that, to just hold steady from 2017 moving forward to 2018, we used up every single bit of the tax cap that we had.
Right.
So we have health insurance increases, we have employee wage increases. Our tax cap for the year is only $486,000.
Right.
Our health insurance increase alone was $700,000. So just to stay neutral, we've got to find $300,000 to cut. So just to give that preliminary, lay the foundation for the predicament that we're in when it comes to budgeting.
Right.
Now, I think that everybody here and in the board, understands where the district attorney is coming from and understands the pressure that her department is under. There's no doubt about that, and I think you're right that the new investigator is going to, be generating some more cases, or at least hopefully catching up on the backlog of cases that we have now. But in order to address those needs, there's only one way to do it, and that's to go over the tax cap. So we presented a budget that we think is fair and that we think is responsible to the taxpayers. It doesn't go over the tax cap, it goes right up to the tax cap. And in order to do that, we weren't allowed to add really any new positions or make any of these tough decisions. It's just basically doing what we did last year, going forward. So understand the comparison between the Sheriff's Department and the DA, but they are somewhat different because one's a net neutral in terms of employee numbers, and one would be an addition because they don't really have the flexibility at the DA that the Sheriff's Department has.
Okay. And while we're talking funding with the district attorney's office, and I guess the criminal justice system in general, looking through some of the numbers, I think a lot of people would be surprised to know that when it comes down to the amount of county tax dollars spent, what the county taxpayers are funding, they actually pay more to the public defender's budget to defend criminals than we are on prosecuting criminals. The DA's budget, and it's a close number. DA funding comes in at $400,882 from a county standpoint, compared to the public defender funding of $404,200. So, I mean, you're only talking about $4,200 difference, but still, I guess it's just the concept that as county taxpayers, the taxpayers are spending more on defending people than they are on prosecuting them. And basically, is it something that, how would we be able to work in another ADA position? We do get some funding from the state. I think it was $73,000 toward the DA salary and $30,000 toward the ADA.
It works out to be about $100,000 in reimbursement for salaries from the district attorney. So actually, if you're looking at pure expense numbers, you're looking at a budget of about $500,000 for the district attorney and about $400,000 for public defender. Now, what Nick's talking about is what comes out of the taxpayer's pocket, because we get $100,000 back for the DA, but we don't get any money back for public defender.
Okay.
So a couple things to address on this topic. One is that it certainly seems counterintuitive, and I understand where you're coming from, and it's a good thing to pick out and explain. Actually, it's not unusual in New York State for county budgets to spend more money on public defense than prosecution, and the reason for that is that it comes down from Albany. Albany determines what we have to do for public defense. They determine income qualifying levels, which they continue to increase the qualifications of people that are available to use public defenders. They determine when we need when we need conflict defenders and secondary conflict defenders. So the public defense process is arduous and has a lot of layers to it, and the way it's set up in New York State is very costly. So that's something that's out of our control, and we're basically mandated to fund at that level. Now, one thing that I would argue is that the New York State Association of Counties, NYSAC, has been pushing the state for years, or the last couple of years, to take on some of these mandated costs that they're putting onto the taxpayers for public defense. The state's the one that keeps making these rules that makes our public defenders budget more and more. They should be on the hook to chip in some of the costs when when the effects of their laws come down the pipe. So that's something that we've been fighting for on a state level. But you're right, as it stands right now, our public defender costs are a little bit more to the taxpayer than our prosecution costs.
And basically, the public defender's office wouldn't be handling the caseload that the district attorney's office would be handling. Some people do have private attorneys. Here in Lewis County, I would say a good proportion, well over the majority of cases are handled by the criminal cases are handled by the public defender's office. District Attorney also has things that the public defender doesn't handle as far as traffic,
Correct.
If you're talking even a simple speeding ticket, that gets reduced down. That's paperwork and things on the district attorney's end that doesn't come into the public defender's office. So
the DA defends every infraction of the law. Excuse me, the DA prosecutes every infraction of the law in the county, whereas the public defender only defends those that are income qualifying. One key difference is that the public defender does have to cover a lot of family court issues, custody battles, and things of that nature that the DA isn't involved in. So there's a little bit of overlap, but sometimes they're doing separate things.
Right.
But that's a good point there. The DA does have a lot of ground to cover.
Okay. I guess on our next topic, we already touched on it a little bit, but we talked about the self-funded health insurance premiums and the self-funded insurance plan. Currently, the way that's set up is the employees contribute about 25% to that, with the county picking up 75%. I think it was last year when the county started doing every 6 months a 10% premium increase on the main plan. So that's definitely affecting the bottom line in the county budget as well, because every time that 10% goes in, the county's picking up 75% of that 10%.
Exactly.
So.
As I mentioned before, we're up to, this year's increase is going to be $700,000 year over year, 17 to 18, a $700,000 increase in the county share of insurance premiums. So when we're dealing with a tax cap, that's only $486,000, $700,000 that's not solving any problems, that's not adding any employees, that's not adding any contracts, that's just to exist as we did last year. Right. That's a tough hurdle to overcome. So that's certainly a challenge, and if you look at the total budget, our insurance premiums are about $4.2 million total in the budget. So it's something that we're working very hard to get control over. As much as it's going up for us, the county and the taxpayers, it's going up for the employees too. They have a stake in the game. So there's a lot of incentive right now for the union and the county to come together to solve this problem and come up with a plan that really makes more sense for everyone. We have some really great productive meetings with the union. They're welcome partners, open to some new ideas. And by the way, this includes the hospital too. The hospital is under our same health insurance plan, so for them it was about a $900,000 increase. Right. So it's something that affects all of our bottom lines, and it's in all of our best interest to get together to work on it, and it's something that we are working on. And I'm confident that by the time we're sitting here next year talking about the 2019 budget, we're not going to have to deal with this large overhead increase.
Okay. And we've already touched on it a few times. Just to keep things exactly the same as they were last year, you guys already were starting out with a hole compared with the tax cap. One of the ways that gap was kind of closed a little bit was with contingency funds. In 2017, the county had budgeted $870,000 for contingency funds. For 2018, we have $250,000 in the budget. We spoke with Treasurer Patty O'Brien this morning, and she let us know that 2017 year to date, we're at about $249,874. So right about that $250,000 mark. So that was one area where cutting back on contingency a little bit. I know she said that you were telling each of the department heads when you were meeting to make sure they're including in their budget things that they anticipated for this year, because the contingency might not be there like it has been in years past. And another area where we closed some gaps were with making a couple one-time items to be paid off with a 2017 surplus to take them out of the 2018 budget altogether. So that saved around $363,000 too. And obviously, from the numbers we were just talking about, there's still about $600,000 in contingency from this year that was budgeted. So some of those one-time expenses can come out of there. We're talking things like the 2 sheriff department cruisers, highway department vehicle equipment, 2 new voting machines, and the building capital contribution from the highway department. So those were some of the ways you were able to close the gap a little bit. Are you comfortable with a $250,000 contingency based on the way that 2017's gone?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, just to back up a little bit, as you know, we were talking about the health insurance at $700,000. We started this budget process in about a $1.4 million gap, where you know, just to stay under the tax cap, we had to cut $1.4 million from the budget. And like I said, that wasn't you know, because we were doing a lot of new things in 2018. That was just to continue operating as we have. So the first thing that we did was we, as Nick mentioned, cut that contingency down from $870,000 down to $250,000. So yes, it's tighter. There's no doubt about it. It's not going to be you know, the amount of cushion that we're used to, but we're confident that if we use that fund really for just important departmental overages, then we should be in fine shape. As you mentioned, we've used about $249,000 so far this year, and we've only got, you know, 6 weeks left in the year. So if we just acted like we did this year and maybe a little bit more conservative, we'll be just fine for the contingency. As for the one-time expenses, we're fortunate that at the end of this year we're looking at a surplus that's going to allow us to do some things to take the pressure off the 2018 budget. We've got access contingency. As Nick had said, we'll probably have about $600,000 left in our existing contingency for 2017. We've got sales tax coming in above projected budget, so we're going to have a little bit of money to play with at the end of the year, and so it's a good way to take the pressure off the 2018 budget by taking care of some of those one-time expenses, capital expenses, at the end of 2017.
And the board's been very conservative with budgeting for sales tax, and that was another area that you guys kind of moved a little bit for 2018, increasing the sales tax projection by $150,000.
Yep.
I think, well, every year, the past 3 or 4 years, it's coming in quite a bit higher than what you guys have projected it to be. We all know sales tax can be very volatile, so
it's a tough one to predict because it's really not a revenue that we have control over. It really is more a reflection of the larger regional economy, and that's a reflection, of course, of the macro economy. So, you know, it's not something we as a county really, you know, can go out and work hard to make sure our sales tax numbers come in. That's not really how it works. So we have to be conservative, but at the same time, we've been conservative. We continue to come in above projections. So $150,000 increase brings us up to about $11 million in total sales tax collections. And we think that is still conservative and still a safe number for us in 2018.
It's a fraction of a percent.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I guess the last thing that we could talk about, and you did a good job at mentioning it in your budget message too, is just the amount of state mandates that are coming in and really tightening up what you guys can do and what you guys have access to when the mandates are more and more, and then they have the tax cap at the same time where you're not allowed to increase the budget, but they want you to pay for more and more. So just a few of the things that our state mandated programs that the county pays a large share of. You have the indigent defense, which we already talked about, the public defender's budget.
That's the largest one.
$404,000. You have probation coming in at $464,000. A pre-kindergarten program, $700,000. That's mandated by the state. The county share $707,000. Early intervention is another $120,000. Medicaid is a big one. Obviously, the county's portion of Medicaid is $5 million. Pensions, foster care, youth detention. So, you know, list just keeps going on and on and on about things that are mandated. So,
you know, it's mandated services are okay, Nick. It's okay for the state. You know, counties are created by the state. That's how this is supposed to work. They created us in 1805, I think it was. The county allowed Lewis County to create. But you know, it's one thing to tell us, you know, that we have to provide certain services. It's another thing to tell us that we have to provide certain services, and oh, by the way, we have to pay for them ourselves. So that's really the sticking point. Of all the things you mentioned there, the one that really is important and it's probably most egregious, is the Medicaid. We're one of only 2 states in the whole United States where local taxpayers have to fund portions of Medicaid, and that makes it awfully tough. And then on the other hand, you've got the state telling us, well, you can't increase your expenses by more than the rate of inflation. That's the tax cap. So on the one hand, they're increasing our expenses year over year. On the other hand, they're limiting what we're able to increase taxes. So it's a challenging situation, but I think it's one that Lewis County has done a pretty decent job trying to balance and buffering the taxpayers from some of these increases. So yes, this year we've got a 1.5% tax increase, but like I mentioned before, in the long run, in the big picture, our taxpayers in Lewis County have done okay.
As far as this will be the last topic, and actually this is a little bit off topic, but I guess we're looking forward into next budgeting year.
Yep.
I know I know with budgeting it never ends, so as soon as you finish one, you're already working on into the next one. I know last year, I think it was around the time that you were coming on when Governor Cuomo announced the shared services plan and wanted everyone to get together with the meetings and things like that. We did a few this year, and I think most of the municipalities obviously are sharing a lot of services, but didn't feel they could get the paperwork done in time to do it for last year. So I know looking forward into this year, do you foresee in your budgeting process, do you foresee being able to come up with some areas maybe where the county can merge some services with some of the towns and villages?
I hope so. I hope that we can. Like you said, there's a lot of stuff that we already do, stuff that we don't quantify.
Right.
We help each other. When we need a load of gravel, we can call up the town in Denmark and they come bring it to us. And when they need an extra snow plow on a day that they've got a man down, we do that for them.
Right.
We don't have contracts in place. We don't have written agreements on how much our time is worth and how much their time is worth. We just do it to be helpful. So some of those things we are going to have to try to probably put into writing and show the state how we are being responsible and helping one another share services up here. That's certainly part of it. But the other part of it is the state has to give us a little bit for some of these things. One of the things I'd love to do is reduce our court costs across the county with some type of consolidated court system. Well, the way the state's rules are written right now, we can't do that. You have to be arraigned in the town or adjoining town to where you are arrested. So there's some things that we think we have some good ideas up here in northern New York of ways that we can share services even more and even be more efficient.
Right.
But the state of New York doesn't allow us to do that. So it's going to be a give and take, and I hope that by the end of 2018, and we're looking into 2019, that maybe there's some money that we can shave off a little bit more. But it's going to be tough because we already do a lot of that already, and the state, doesn't give us the flexibility to change some of the stuff that we think would help.
Right. All right. Well, it was great taking the time to talk about the budget today. Was there anything else off the top of your head that maybe that I didn't cover that you wanted to get out there to the people before the hearing on November 16th?
I would just say, on a personal note, just extend a thank you to Patty O'Brien, who has just served this county so well over her long career in the finance department, and she does an amazing job as treasurer. And there's no way in my first year I could have handled this by myself. So I'm real happy and grateful to have Patty here. She's a great public servant, and she's extremely helpful, and she does a really nice job.
And Patty's the deputy budget officer.
She is the deputy.
I don't know if we
budget
mentioned at the beginning. Not only are you county manager, but part of your title is actually you're the official budget officer for the county.
That's right. I don't get a badge. I don't get a badge though, Nick.
Right. So you're in charge of putting the budget together to present to the legislators, and then they'll go ahead and take a look at it on on Thursday night.
Yep.
And the public will be able to comment on the budget at the same time. So if there's things left out or things in there that maybe you disagree with, Thursday night's a good time to come out and
that's the time.
Let your opinion be known.
Absolutely.
5 o'clock, November 16th, here at the courthouse in Lavelle.
Correct.
Thanks a lot for your time today, Ryan.